Okay, Christina Merkley here. I can't see myself on the video, so hopefully I'm in the screen. One of the pre-recorded sessions, I have Hannah who has dropped by. Hannah and I share a mentor, and she's still mentoring away. And so she is now mentoring your generation, which is amazing. And you've come here for an exploratory chat. I often field those. So any questions, I've directed Hannah, and I'll put this in the links under the video. I have a left brain path and a right brain path, a blog post that I've written about more of the kind of corporate-y, practical side of my evolution through working with visuals and where they are now in the world. And then I also have my right brain, because a lot's happened. Most people think of this way of working as right brain. I don't. I think of it as actually more left. But the right brain for me will be the emotional or even the energetic consciousness kind of route that's unfolded. Mm-hmm. Hannah, you've blitzed through some of those. They're huge posts, so you gleaned a little bit there.
They
so
talk a bunch.
Yeah, so there might be any questions on that we can start, and then maybe there's just a piece of experiential work we can do, because you're finding your way with this particular niche of work, and I might be able to just assist you to draw out your consciousness a little bit on this, and you get your own answers from within too.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for
You're
offering
welcome.
that.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say. They were so deep and winding and like beautiful stories. I really resonated. It just, offering up the framework of the left and right brain it was really exciting to me to like read how you wove in so many different parts of your life, your experience, both like formal education, as well, and these different kind of development opportunities, as well as like more of the informal experience. And just, you seem to be like a person that is, you've crafted like your own experience and educational, like informal educational experience with all of the wide range of things that you've done in the world. And it was really exciting for me to see that and to read that, because I feel that really resonated with me. Like that's something I've always been seeking out. Like all the things you mentioned, from like dream work and doing that kind of work, all the way to a lot of the like inner work and philosophical orientations. Like that's been so true for me as well in my life. And to see the way that you've been able to craft something that and a business that around these different interests and inquiries and skills, and that has been able to evolve over time is really exciting for me to see. And I just wonder, I guess I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that transition from working more explicitly with companies. Like I saw, foundation work and more like why you made that transition. And I read your post, so I know some of the story pieces, but just how you made that transition. How you made that transition.
Makes sense. Yep. Well, I guess what comes to mind first and heart, is it looks all nice and tidy when you read it in a blog post like that after the fact. But my experience has been, and it might be what's happening with you, it's like the breadcrumbs along the way, right? So there'll be a bit and then another bit, and I didn't necessarily know. Of course, I hoped that they would weave together somehow, right? But there were long periods, and I still hit periods of that when I hit a new stage of development, which has happened in the last couple of years too for me. So I'm going to a whole new level. So it's not like it's all nice and neat and orderly and all worked out ahead of time, right? So my experience, I probably wrote about this in the blog post, is I kind of just go for things that I am interested in, right? I follow the feeling. And for me, it's kind of that warm, glowy feeling. I feel it in my heart, warm and fuzzy, right? And the mind can kind of get in there occasionally, and I'm practical. So I normally the warm and fuzzy, even if it's not initially practical, my mind and doer figures out a way to make them practical, right? So So, and there were a lot of people early on for me, family included, who were quite discouraging at times about what I was doing. So, just having to kind of keep going with those things. Also being leading edge, this work is leading edge. And back in the day when I first got into it, it was quite small and very leading edge. So to pursue things that are more leading edge, I think does take courage and does take perseverance. And then for me, it's been a lot of inner work about just keep following that voice. Sometimes it hasn't always sustained me. So there's been a process of getting to one level of stabilization as I get a new thing that I'm interested in, exploring it and integrating it in and figuring out often how to monetize it, right?
Yeah.
And then this will kind of shift over to here, and then I'll do the same thing. So it's kind of, my logo is a arrow that kind of is the loop-de-loop kind of arrow, right? So as you take in those new bits and integrate it, and then that kind of becomes old hat and there's something else I'm interested in. So then I'm like, oh, I got to do it again. Like, how do I learn this stuff or integrate this stuff or bring this part of my being in? And then, recalibrate the brand, recalibrate my offerings, recalibrate maybe some of the money stuff, right? And then go through that. And so it's iterative. Is that the right word? Ongoing?
Yeah, for sure.
Process. Yeah.
And I'm curious about like what you would say to someone like me who is a beginner still in this. And it's like, looking back, it's like I have all those breadcrumbs of things that I too have done that are formal and informal experiences.
Yeah.
And around like, in particular, I guess, there's graphic recording, graphic facilitation, and visual coaching. And those are all slightly different and connected things. And I'm just, I'm curious what, like for someone interested in cracking into the field that is really trying to get to maybe, or strives for that level of financial freedom and ability to do, as you say, which is like to follow your heart work, I guess, or your passion and towards that level of financial autonomy. I'm just curious about, it's like, learning that, is it like taking courses or where to crack in, I guess?
Yeah. So the first thing just practically is that there is a whole craft to it, right? And nowadays there's a lot of people, I'm one of them, who has different kinds of trainings. So there's a lot of variety now, which is great. I kind of think about it like cookbooks, right? Because if you're a cook, you don't just stay with one cookbook often, you get many, right? Try different kinds of recipes. So there are definitely people, and I'm one, who has a certain kind of thing or a certain kind of style or a certain kind of recipe. And there's several of those, lots of those. So you can kind of bop around. Of course, there's in-person courses. There's so much online now. For me, I call it the fundamentals. So I have a program called the Fundamentals of Working Visually. And mine is not just recording. So I do what I call the 4 animals. You just labeled them with the exception of chart work, right? So a lot of the work now is very studio focused, even if it's done on site with clients or online with clients, right? It's kind of more of these polished info architecture kind of pieces. So that's one big area is chart work. And then graphic recording, like you said. And then I call it the process work, right? So there's process work with groups, AKA group facilitation. And then there's process work with individuals, AKA coaching or counseling or therapy or non-dual work or whatever you might be doing with those individuals. So
it kind of depends.
So that's why I like base skills, to start with the base skills and they get applied to different places. Also start where you are. So a lot of people might already be employed somewhere. I know you are. So that becomes a natural, right? If you get the base skills in. And I know you have an artistic background, right? A lot of people sometimes will come and aren't artistic or don't identify or even are scared of that label. So the nice thing with this stuff, in my mind, it's changing, but I'm more over in the process side of it where it doesn't have to be perfect art. To just be open and think of it more like visual, like a communication device or a recording device as
Yeah.
opposed to it being art, right? There's certainly aspects of those animals that are more art-like the chart work or the graphic recording. But when you get over in the process side, which is where I dwell, you're working fast and spontaneously with groups and individuals. So in fact, the art can actually slow you down a little bit if you're super trained in it and you have to let go of a bunch of stuff in order to do it in the now. So yes, you want to get some base training. Yes, you can weave in if you already come loaded up with art or calligraphy or lettering skills or something, right? Those can go a long way in the work. But there's room in there for everybody. Whether you're strong on the art side or you're strong on the process side, and or you need to develop, go to the other side, because it's both. It's left brain and right. So just get in there and start mucking around, basically get some basic training and start wherever you are, start looking for places you can start applying it. It might be starting with posters or charts or something, right? So you're just broadcasting and communicating information. You have the time to create it in your studio. You're not worried about it being done publicly, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to move to some safe places where you can do it publicly. So where are meetings happening, or where is somebody talking about something? It could be in person or it could be online. You can just do what often is called sketchnoting. So more kind of do your notes and then share them, but eventually you want to kind of the craft of making the notes as they're happening starts to happen, right? Instead of just showing an artifact afterwards. And then studio work and graphic recording are kind of on one side, and then on the other side is this process work, and often that's a journey to step over. As a graphic recorder, you can be embedded in somebody else's process, right?
Right.
So you're not just off on the side taking notes, but it's actually a concerted, facilitated process that's happening. So that's how I kind of made the segue. I was a graphic recorder and I was embedded at the Grove Consultants at the time. So I was working alongside the internal consultants, but I also, as a graphic recorder internally at the Grove, I had to also find people outside. So I had lots of consultants I worked with, some in the Grove, some in other places. So I got exposed as a graphic recorder to a lot of different processes, a lot of leadership, and people, putting groups through various things. Yeah. And eventually I started to make the segue into taking the lead myself. And it was because of the grace and graciousness of those consultants and facilitators who trusted me to start doing some bits, right? Maybe it would be a breakout group. And so they'd take half the room and I'd take half the room. Yeah. And I'd start to facilitate a breakout group. And then I think inevitably somebody's sick or somebody doesn't want to take a gig, and you kind of get, okay, you're ready, right? And you always have that first one where you have to kind of step in and take on more of the leadership yourself, and hopefully find out you can do it, and that you like it, which was my case, right? So, and I had my master's is in organizational development and transformation. So, and I got that pretty young. So I came out of grad school and then I had to figure out, how to apply this big fancy degree, and nobody was going to hire me at, I don't know, in my late 20s or whatever, mid-20s, with no corporate experience to do organizational development. So, but I found graphic recording while I was in grad school, and that allowed me to be in rooms where OD was being done by very senior people, and I could be the scribe and the visual sidekick to them. And I learned so much working alongside those folks. And then, like I said, they gave me my break where I moved into facilitating some bits for them. Eventually, when I moved home to Canada, there was not a lot at that time happening. So I had to step into the facilitation because there was no facilitators around me who really knew how to work visually as well. So that's how it happened for me. And then all the way along for me, that grad school is in San Francisco area you are. So it's a mecca for learning and personal growth at large. So I'm a personal seeker and very interested in consciousness expansion. So I was always studying. I studied hypnotherapy. I studied coaching, NLP, just trying to conflict resolution, mediation, those kinds of
Yeah.
things, right? So they all wove in, and that was really the love work for me. I spent a lot of time, 10, 12 years in corporate. I was always an independent or maybe employed in a consulting firm, but then I left the consulting firm and I went independent. So, I was never embedded for a long time in an organization per se. So I got a lot of variety still, which I like. So that served me well. And then, like I said, when I came home to Canada, that allowed me to really step into that leadership and then get clear, where am I best suited? Where are clients best liking me? How do I want to spend my life? And for me, it wasn't on the road all the time. As a woman, I needed to make some decisions about how I wanted to build my personal life and whether I was going to have kids or not, and where did I want to be connected to where my extended family was. So in my 30s, I made a lot of decisions because a lot of my mentors were male and they were in their 60s and they were real road warriors. And so I really saw like, do I really want my life to go that way? Probably not. Because I didn't want to be home like 5 or 6 days out of the month, which I had done for a while. So then it became making some conscious decisions, returning home to Canada, which is a smaller market, actually returning to where I am on Vancouver Island, which is an even smaller market. But this was also when online was starting to emerge. And so my practice really grew because I was one of the first people to have a website and this stuff. And then I was probably the first person to have a newsletter and a blog. And so people around the world who knew enough about this niche organizationally, but also as I was starting to experiment with my shift at work, the coaching stuff, people found me just because I was writing and talking about the stuff I loved. And frankly, my tools, my shifted process that now exists, there's 40 something tools and a certification. Back in the day, I just used my newsletter as I was crafting those tools, right? And it gave me a natural deadline, like once a month I had to write something. So it made me create my tools, the early ones. And I still facilitate occasionally, but I mostly focus on coaching and my satsang work nowadays. And I coach or I train across those 4 animals, but more and more, even my fundamentals, I'll probably be tailoring that more to specifically for working with individuals as opposed to groups. I've helped grow a field. And so many people are doing the group work and the facilitation work, and the what's new and what is niche and what's my real love is the visual coaching work and the satsang work. Yeah. Yeah, and there's lots of people. So I was just, there's a Facebook group, you've probably found it, for graphic facilitation. I point a lot of people there because you'll get exposed to a lot of the gamut of the work. International Forum of Visual Practitioners, they have a conference, kind of usually a little more weighted towards studio work and graphic recording, but I think that's starting to change nowadays where it's more about the process work too. Occasionally I make appearances there. So those are typical places I would point people. Yeah.
And just while you're on that subject, it's like I see the certification for becoming a visual coach. I'm just curious, like in your experience working in this field, and I'm sure it depends on what it is that kinds of services you're offering, but it's like how important is like a formal certification, or what really is or is it more just about years of experience, or like what are people really looking for?
It depends. And so there's the different animals. I don't think my certification is specifically for my tools and around visual coaching, and it's been enough of a niche, right, that it's very specific. So I can talk more about that later if you want, but probably the first place to start is around recording and facilitation. I could be wrong, but my understanding is there is not any certification per se on that. There's lots of trainings.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
Yeah. And I don't think for, frankly, any of it, including visual coaching, do you need a certification, but I think trainings at large for those other things, and then for my coaching, it helps to it can get you there quicker when you take proper training, right? And I've had many, many people come through my stuff saying, I wish I had done this so much earlier, because I don't have to reinvent the wheel, and I can get people there quicker, right? And you get your language and your ideas about the distinctions between the work, which can be quite confusing. You get that sorted out really early. So it can help you get there quicker with a good training. With the certification, I opted to do a certification because my Shift It process has taken many years to build, right? It's a big investment on my part. And there are some prerequisites you can take. So the fundamentals is the prerequisite. Doing Shift It yourself is a prerequisite. But if you want to come through and actually use my tools and get my seal of approval, you have to go through the certification. And that gives me an opportunity to basically protect the quality of the tools.
Yeah.
I'm really serious, and people will tell you it's a fun program, but I'm really serious about the exam, right? I'm not just letting people in for letting people's in sake and money's sake. It's really about, these are my babies, and I want them to be used right in terms of the tools.
Yeah.
And it's really serious what we're doing. We're working with individuals, and that impacts people's lives, right? And it's not just about doodles. So it doesn't have to be in the other work either, but there's so when you move over to the process work and you're responsible for groups and you're responsible for holding space for individuals, it becomes very serious. And I think you need special skills for that. And people will come thinking they can just wing it, but when they come into the program, they see, oh, I didn't even know that stuff existed, right? So when you wing it and piece it together, of course, I had to do that at the beginning too, right? Being a pioneer in some stuff. But I took a lot of different training myself, right? So I'm a big advocate for that. When you get into the seriousness of holding space for others. Yeah. But there's a lot really you can do. There's so much that's now available just for free on the web at large that wasn't there when I was first coming up. There's books, there's affordable online trainings. Then you go up a bit more when you get into in-person trainings. I and others do mentoring, one-to-one mentoring and apprenticeship kind of programs with people. So, you kind of get what you pay for too, in terms of
totally.
It's a craft. It's a craft. It's a career. It's a skill. So, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for offering all that.
Yeah. And so tell me, I just, I could sit here, blah, 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 and give my
sure.
usual, but what are you doing with your work? I mean, you're embedded somewhere. So are you starting to take the base skills and experiment and apply them to what's happening?
Yeah. And it's a little bit, my day-to-day work and role is a little bit different than the kind of work that I'd like to call in and do. A lot of that work is happening around me in terms of group process and facilitation and that type of thing. But it is like you say, I mean, it's a craft to really, and a skill to really hone. And especially with the caliber of folks that I work with, it's not like I'm going to be just automatically invited into space. It's like that iterative process. You can't
skip all those years and gray hairs.
You can't skip it. No, you can't. So it's really, for me, I think the place that I see that I could really offer a unique skill is really around graphic recording, to be able to just be a part of those conversations and spaces, and
to help, because the facilitators aren't visual, they need the help.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's a really niche and a niche skill within the environment that the ecosystem that I'm working in. And so I have interest in developing like some of those hard skills and then bringing them into my work. I mean, I have total interest just in my own personal development and growth around strengthening that muscle of systems thinking. And that's something I've always been drawn to, and like my place in feels like it's like synthesizer. That's always been my orientation towards
yeah.
work, and I'm extremely interested in process. And so, I have interest in working both where I currently work now, and bringing that tool in whatever way I can, to help elevate the kinds of clients that we work, the experience of the kinds of clients we work with. But then I also have an interest in building kind of my own practice outside of the current organizational setting where I work as
Makes
well,
sense.
just to have a broader scope and breadth of work that I'm able to touch into. So that's a little bit about how
you
I
already
see
have
it
belongings.
figuring.
That's perfect, because that's the same way it happened for me. So start where you're planted. And graphic recording is a wonderful thing to get your foot in the door and be of use to people, and get a free education, frankly, in a way, right? From the process side of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that piece lights me up around just like, you know, the different types of venues and spaces and conversations and topically I go for a total diversity, and that's what I'm so excited by. And so
I loved my graphic recording career because I'm a very curious person, and we have the overall kind of environment that we're all embedded in. Sometimes, you know, the bigger macro stuff we're all embedded in. And as you bop around to different industry or different interest groups or whatever it might be, right? How are they dealing with this macro environment, right? What decisions are they making, or what are their action plans looking like? What are their resistance issues that need to be worked through? So I really loved it because I like variety, and I also like to read and study things. So as I would be bopped into different groups, some of my colleagues don't. They like to do graphic recording, just show up and do it. But I kind of like context, right? So I would devour the people's books and their slides and stuff ahead of time. And
you're like, I'm putting in too much time here.
But it all goes in, because then the next one you're ready for, right? You understand it better. And when you start to facilitate too, you have all this background behind you that you can refer to, and you really understand those clients because of putting that due diligence in earlier as a recorder. So you're on your way. So you're applying it internal. You're already starting to think about an external practice, a side practice. A lot of people I see do that, where they'll have their main gig and then they have their side practice. And then sometimes people will start to truncate their hours. So if they're working full time, maybe go to Fridays off or something, or 3/4 time or whatever, 3 days a week, right? If they have that flexibility, as this is growing, then they can truncate it down. And then eventually there becomes a time, what are you going to do if it's half? Some people like to keep it that way. And then others are like, no, I'm going to put both feet over there. And that's what happened. You know, I stepped over when actually I went on my own very quickly because 9/11 hit, and I had actually just went independent, and then 9/11 hit, right? So I had 6 months on my own after I had left Grove. And anyway, I made it.
You got through.
And then you can go back and forth. It doesn't mean you have to, if you are interested in independent practice, you know, you can try that for a while and see how that goes and how it suits you, or what's happening in your life at large. And then you might go internal again. I have colleagues, I've always stayed external myself in my own business, but who knows, knock on wood, maybe sometime I would go internal somewhere. I have colleagues that dovetail back and forth, right? So you can really tailor it depending on what you like and what kind of security things you want in your life. So
I mean, one of the areas that I was curious just to talk with you about, and so it feels so abstract, but I really also resonated with like the way in which you're curious and interested in group process, and really like the systemic, and you know, acknowledging like we're in really sick systems, and but then also like working at there's so many different scales. It's like working at the scale of like larger global systems, and then also working at the scale of like interpersonal transformation, which is also something that I feel so curious about, is like I've always drawn to all the different scales and sites of transformation. And yeah, I'm not even sure what the question is, but I'm just curious to hear about your, I'm always trying, I guess you offered up a kind of set of questions that you were asking yourself around. It's like, well, where are my personal gifts? And where would those be most strategic? What do I want to do? Like, what's my appetite? What are my passions? It's like all of those become important questions to ask. And I don't know, it seems like you've been able to have a lot of experience in kind of both. And yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts around moving between those.
What, again, I would say it naturally unfolds, or at least it did for me, right? So the mind is kind of kissing the mind who wants to have it all figured out, maybe, or all planned, right? So it's just like awe to the mind, because good luck.
Yeah.
But for me, it unfolded more just naturally. And so I have a word with my students to pay attention to is when you start to get resentful about something, right? It might be the amount of money you're being paid, or it might be the amount of hours you're putting in or something. Usually that's the time that you have to, it's time for a revamp. It's time to renegotiate, it's time to change things, because you don't want that resentment to get too big, because then it starts to talking about toxicity, right? You can bring your own toxicity in. So for me, I really hit a time where it was a lot of the travel. And like I said, I needed to figure out some things in my personal life about how I wanted to structure that. And there's a biological clock that comes along with women. So, there's a certain time frame in my life that I had to figure that out. So that was one driver for sure. The other thing was just my dislike of some of the things that I was participating in the certain kinds of industries or in corporate at large. And this gets talked about somewhat. I talk about it in my classes. Sometimes there's conversations that happen on the larger Facebook group, right? It can even get into morals and ethics and values. So as I went along, I really liked the early stages of my career, but there were some stages midway where, yes, I could do it. And yes, you could do something. Sometimes you have to for a money job. But I actually made some decisions to step away from some of the money and some of the prestige, taking my worth and value maybe from more internal things instead of those external status symbols. And I'm also somebody who's, I think you are too, on a spiritual path. And so I had to really weigh a lot of those things. What was most important for me? I've also kind of always been aware of limited time and legacy, right? And seeing some of my colleagues and how their lives played out, and having some sick relatives as well. So just being aware that, time you never know how much time you have. So you might as well go for stuff that you really care about. And so I stepped away from, I moved back home to British Columbia. So I really stepped away. I was really operating at a elite level with the graphic recording and with the companies and stuff when I was embedded in the States. And I made a conscious decision to go back home, and knowing that I would probably bring it down a notch in terms of my income. But for me, that was okay. I was willing to experiment and give it a go if I could craft a lifestyle that was more based around my values and contributing to things that were meaningful to me, as opposed to things that I thought bigger picture were in a great trajectory, right? So I did that. And I went, at that time, I had this weird niche knowledge. And so I really moved into training, and I was an early one online. I also started to develop, that's when I developed the coaching work, right? Which wasn't, coaching was coming up as a field, but it really wasn't emerging with the visual aspect. So I took that energy and kind of nestled in. My income did come down, but I had more time and I wasn't on the road as much. So I could really develop my coaching work. And I still coach people. My clients are embedded in organizations and institutions all around the world. So I have this really remarkable vantage point. A lot of it is confidential. I can't talk about because my clients was confidential, but kind of the who's who in this field, a lot of them I coach. And then people who are embedded in organizations I coach as well. And that's really grown over the last decade at least, where there's internal practices, right? So it's not just independence now in the field. There's large visual practices in these large institutions. And thankfully, sometimes the organization pays for those people to be developed by me with the visual skills and the coaching, or those people pay out of their pocket too, because sometimes they're looking, like you mentioned, about developing side practices, maybe eventually leaving and having a full-time practice. So I do a lot of that coaching. So in a way, I'm still, through a degrees of separation, I'm still helping the organizations and the institutions, whether they're healthy or not, right? I'm helping those people who hopefully are, and who are doing their darndest, right? Like my hats go off to people who can be in places that need development and hang in there and do the work. And so that kind of guidance with the visual skills and the facilitation and stuff that they're doing, let alone the deep inner work I can help them with, you know, to be able to hang in there in those environments and keep their eye on the prize. So I'm able to do that with the lifestyle I want in the woods and still be tapped in and make a decent living too, right? So it's not like all the money's gone away. Yeah. So it's a nice balance. Yeah.
Awesome.
How's that land for you? Take it back to you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just noticing and appreciating just the iterative, it's not just as you said, the iterative nature of your work and its evolution over time, and finding trust and patience in the process of things unfolding, and guided by also some real tangible skill and some like hard points of decision making.
Exactly.
And what you say no to being just as important as what you say yes to. And
the pain, you know, often those change processes have pain in them. When I was a graduate recorder, I draw a lot of them out for various consultants, and that's been my experience too. In the bigger picture, it makes sense. When it's happening, not so fun, right? Where you hit these things where you're dissatisfied, or it gets really uncomfortable, right? Like some of those values decisions I was having, that was not fun. And I did not know at the time how it would turn out, right? But I just knew if I kept going, I would not be healthy myself, right? And things can pan out when you're under a lot of stress or in an environment that doesn't suit you. You can end up in illness and various things. So, you know, I was willing to kind of be in the unknown a little bit. One of the people that it's in the blog post, and he's gone now, but William Bridges, was there right in the Bay Area when I was coming up there. And he's written a lot of book on transitions, right? So I actually knew a lot recording alongside him and reading his books. I knew a lot about the transitions cycle, right? And that it's called the neutral zone in his books, right? He uses an analogy of the circus trapeze, right? And you're up there in the air and you let go of one trapeze and the other one hasn't quite right. And you're hanging out in limbo land, right? In liminal space. Other people have done a lot with that, but it's not the most comfy place to be. But after you've been there a couple times, you recognize, oh, things have a way of working out, right? If I can just be okay with the unknown and the mind and the doer getting a little cuckoo, right? But as the heart comes on and the belly comes on, and you've been through a couple of those, right? And life will do that to you. It gets easier in a way, right? You can trust it more because you have something to fall back on. But the first couple ones aren't easy because you haven't gone out to the other side to see how it plays out. Yeah.
And I think I have a slight bit of impatience just around being young and feeling less being less experienced, and also just feeling the the guidance of so many of my elders in the field, who I'm just like, that's, how do I get there? Like, how do I do that? And it's like, it's gonna have to
I
take
remember
its
that
course.
too.
And
It'll
yeah,
just through time. But there's so much you
yeah,
can do now. Because I look back, I was effective right off the bat too, right? So you
yeah,
get in there, be who you are, be in your youth. Yay, so much to youth, right? And enjoy that, and
yeah,
know that the seasoning comes too. So it's yes, and it doesn't have to be either or. You can be I was very effective right off the bat, especially equipped like I was in the Grove and I helped them create their line of strategic visioning products, right?
mm-hmm.
And so those are wonderful tools that it's kind of process in a box, right? So I was able to use those tools as a young woman, right? Like I said, right out of grad school without a lot of real world experience, but being a process holder, understanding the container, maybe not having the specifics, like the client does, but the client brings those, so I could be effective. Same thing with my coaches, right? When I get them set up, they can be effective right from the get-go. So more seasoning comes, you get more effective, I think, with age and experience. And these are the kinds of professions too that I think you have longevity as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily, a lot of people aren't retiring at the same age as people used to retire at, but as long as your health and your vitality is there, your knowledge base just keeps growing, right? So I think we can be very effective throughout our whole lifespan, right? So when you first learn the skills, you're effective, and you all the way along as you keep at it and keep adding to them. So you don't have to wait forever. I remember that in patience, and I look back at it, and I did good work back then, and I do different work now and more informed work. But there's probably some things that I could go back and like, oh yeah, I should do it the way I used to do it. That was really good,
Right, so. Right. Yeah, there's a gift in that too.
You don't have to wait forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the world needs it. Like there's so much, especially nowadays, right? There's so much needing of space at all the different levels of it. Like you were saying, the big global or national kind of conversations, all the way down to the warring things within us, right? At the personal level. So everybody is welcome. Everybody is needed, right? To help sort out this time. So get going.
Get going. Find your place and get going.
That's right. Get going, and you'll be grown through the process too. So shall we go talk to your future self or something? You want to make a little segue instead
I would love
of
to do that.
Talking from on high?
I would love that. Yeah, I would love that.
So there's a couple options. I can feel two things. I do have, and you might have done something like this, it's like a personal visioning exercise where we could go bop you out in time and you can figure out how much. Maybe it's when you're your old sage self and somebody's interviewing you. We can do that and make a connection with her, and she can give you her take on things. I could also, I know you're aware of non-dual, I could just slide right into maybe doing self-inquiry, and the answers can come out that way. I'm sure there's other things we could do, but those two are coming to mind.
What is the self-inquiry piece look like exactly?
Well, I do have a template for it, but I would probably just work with a blank sheet of quote unquote digital paper here. And I would just meet, you and I have just had a conversation. So I would just meet what is present now, and we would start there. And it basically just unfolds, talking about being in the unknown, right? You just kind of meet, and I will throw some certain things out on the coffee table, so to speak. You will apply them to yourself and your field, and then you'll tell me what happens, and we'll just follow it.
Yeah. Great. That sounds great. Let's do
let's do the inquiry. Yay.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Ooh, and I just have a client map on here. So let me just do a quick save before I bring up the screen so I don't lose her map and you don't see it. Okay. Okay. Okay, get a blank sheet. There, we're safe. Let me change. Now some people ask, so I'll just say it. Are you using digital tablet? I've got a Cintiq. Most people use iPads. So are you using iPad yet, or what are you doing?
No, I don't have any digital tools in my toolkit yet.
Well, eventually you make that decision. So this one I've got in front of me, it's a 24-inch. It's called a Wacom Cintiq. So I'll be drawing that. Came from big paper, right? So to crunch down the iPad is a little small for me. And back in the day, the iPads didn't work very well with things. So I've got this is Presley. I don't know if you can see her. My dog's on my lap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So she's going to crunch underneath the tablet. And then software I'm using is called Sketchbook Pro. And I'm not going to bring up a template, so I'm just going to work organic here. But I do have my tools underneath. Do you have a color that you would prefer?
Let's see. How about green? Sure.
That one okay there? You can see that color? That color green. Or I have a deeper one or a lighter one.
That one looks great.
Okay, excellent. We'll use it. Okay, so let's both take a breath. We're going to shift state here, and we're going to kiss our minds because they've been talking a lot and sorting through things, and we thank them. We need our minds. But now we're just going to become aware of the body too, right? So neck down, oh yeah, heart there, belly down there, feet on the floor, maybe aware of your environment, ecosystem like you're talking about. And just both of us, I'm going to do the same thing. It's sun's coming down a little here in British Columbia. You can see the trees out there. I can become aware of the ground underneath me. Invite you to do the same where your feet are planted. I'm just going to kind of come to letting this conversation we've just had fall away and just kind of come a little into the now. And I'm just curious about what is most present now, right? It might be a thought from what we've just talked about, or it could be a feeling or a body sensation or something along those lines. So just anything that you notice that's maybe most up for you right now.
We're having this like insane windstorm here right now.
Oh, we had that last night.
the trees are just shaking like mad outside and dropping leaves on the ground. And I'm like feeling this like whirling, the kicking up of like the snow globe. And like the whirling of energy that is connected to and just what is most alive for me in our conversation around it's like properties of transformation, or the liminal space of transformation, and the not knowing.
So just getting that down. Properties, transformation. Presley wants over to her bed, so let me move her over to her bed on my lap. Okay, say bye. Bye.
Bye. Oh, so cute.
Yeah. They're like, she needs a WALK, so hopefully she won't be too squirmy. Okay, properties of transformation and the unknown. So we're going to meet all this in the layers that it came out. I'm just going to get it down. Okay, so one of the big things with inquiry work, it's called non-dual, which means oneness, right? So we just kind of welcome everything. So we're just going to welcome this whirling of energy, literally outside you. It's funny because we had a whopper storm last night, so sounds like it's made its way down the coast. So just welcoming that whirling of energy and just saying the words, even if they're inauthentic.
Hello.
Did your power drop off, or maybe mine did?
No, I didn't, but I was curious. You said whirling of energy and then it went dark. So I don't know, but sorry for the interruption.
No, we'll see. That was fascinating. Yeah. We'll see what happens. It looks like
Yeah.
the recording's still going. So, wow,
Great.
powerful. So, what I was saying at the end there was,
Oh, just so you know, your
welcoming it.
screen's not shared anymore.
Oh,
I think that.
okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'll
Yeah.
share it. Yeah. Must have bopped that off too.
Great.
Okay. Back.
We're back.
Good. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
It's a little bopping around and shaky. So just welcoming the parts you like out of this swirl, and also welcoming the parts you don't like, because there's probably liking and there's aversion at the same time. So we're just going to welcome both of them. Okay. So you just kind of apply it inside. Hey, all that stuff in this swirl that I like, you are welcome here. Hey, all that stuff in that swirl that I don't like, you are welcome here. And just see what happens as you do that. You're going to inform me.
Yeah, I think there's like a meeting the frenetic energy with like, it's like what's coming in for me is like a pause and like a slowness. And that like actually to attend to whatever is like, to attend to the elements of like the good, say, and the bad, or the pieces I like and the pieces I don't like, that is actually necessitates like a quietness of self.
Yeah, nice. So this is the next layer of packet. So we're just going to agree because it's made a shift on you. And how great. So a pause has come in. So you're just going to welcome the pause and the slowness, which comes with attending to. You're also aware of this polarity between this good and bad stuff, that the welcoming, both of them actually, so-called positive and negative, are both being welcomed. And that ending in this quietness of self that's coming on. So you're just, yes, please, to all that. Ooh, good idea. And with that quietness of self, you're just kind of inviting it to, oh, you are welcome here. You can even stretch out a little more if you like. You can come on down and root down, you can rise up, or you can expand in you and your field. So just see, as you make that suggestion, you're working with consciousness, right? And sometimes it gets caught in a pattern. So you've just made some more space as you've kind of settled in, and just see if you can kind of beckon it like, hey, come on in. Like a plane, where you're kind of directing it into the hangar. Hey, this way, this way. And it may be able to do that easily, and you notice it coming in. It may do it partially, or it may not do it at all. There's no wrong answer. So just see, what do you notice as you invite it in? Hey, quietness of self, you're welcome here.
Yeah, there's like there's like interstitial space for that, and like the slowness. And I'm also aware of like the ways in which like my life as it's currently set up is like that there is not it's like a dropping in, it's like a layer that
So if it's
I,
not, what's the opposite of that polarity? So you're feeling that slowness and pause, and it's making in a way the contrast of what it has been. So we know it's a little frenetic, or at least the weather around you is. Is it fast? What's the opposite of that slow pause that you're usually operating in? How would you define that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of tricky because I guess like the good and like the right brain and the left brain, like you're talking about, there's like gifts to both, and it's like the fast paced, the fast paced like constriction, which is more about action.
Yes.
And doing is not a bad thing. It's also like how I get shit done. And is associated with like a high intellectualism. But it's just like, I feel it's like imbalanced. It's imbalanced.
Yeah. Excellent observations. So thank everything for the realizations. And I'm just going to do a big old infinity symbol here between these, because you got polarity happening here and it's being pointed out. And you're also doing a plus and a plus, right? That in their own ways, you want to keep those elements. So just deep bowing. It doesn't have to be bowing, but that's a shorthand for just appreciation, right? Just really giving them a nod. And thank you to pause and slowness and attending to. And then also recognizing life's been really fast and it's been more constricted energy and more action with its doing in the intellect. And there's a little bit of no thanks in there. There's a bit of longing I'm hearing here for this, right? This pause and this slowing down and attending to, or at least a balance. Yes, and you said it's been a little lopsided. So we're just going to invite this stuff. We're going to invite that. That's kind of a longing. We're just going to keep going with the, hey, come on in. You're welcome. Here's the hanger. Come on in. Let's balance this out a little bit. You know, we got this wonderful mind and doer, but let's get the heart and the belly in here too, please. And just see as you're just continuing to, hey, just a little unbalanced. We'd like it a little more balanced. Come on in here, this other side. You're welcome here.
Yeah. What I think comes in is around like daily practice, like, and like the time, it's like to make that shift, it's like that it's actually more about like the daily, the daily of like everything from who I am around, to like movement practice, to what I'm eating, to what I'm watching, listening to.
Yes, good.
It's like
moving,
not,
watching, all of it. Yeah, the input.
Yeah, the input, as opposed to like a forced, like, as opposed to a forced shift. Like, as you were saying, there's these points where you have to make decisions or like let go of the trapeze, so to speak. But that I think I'm still in that like slow moving daily, trying a shift of daily practice, maybe.
I'm just going to get, since you mentioned it, we might as well draw it in.
The trapeze.
Right. So yeah, right there in here. And then this daily becomes so important. What you're doing in the moment. What are you eating? How are you moving? What's around you? What are you watching? What are you listening? All this input kind of stuff. As you're in this unknown. Just welcoming all that. Consciousness is communicating with you beautifully and with all of us. So yes, please, to that. I'm just seeing now what happens. You're right with it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm. I'm in kind of a blank space.
Yeah, that's something. That's actually something really important. So hello, blank space. You are welcome here. In fact, that's kind of what it is, isn't it? This liminal thing.
Yeah.
So just really bowing to that. Really, you might even want to, you'll find your own gift, but a classic gift is maybe giving flowers or something to blank space.
Mm.
See if you feel like flowers or there's something else, but as you come up to blank space, you know, it's just kind of like a gift of honoring or friendship even.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel natural to give it flowers, or what would you like to gift it?
Yeah. I think what comes in is like really around like childhood, and like that it's like I'm not a blank I mean I am not a blank space, that it's like there is so much history, and it's like when you said that, I imagined myself as a young child giving myself a flower, or giving my
sweet, yep,
a
right back
younger
to
self,
you. Yeah, that's
giving
beautiful.
myself a flower, but just that that they're,
well, it might be a little orphan rescue that just happened there in shorthand, right? So out of this blank space rose up, I'm not a blank space. And we're you know, I can kind of feel the little toddler and defiance and yay, right? Like good for her. And her actually giving you the flower. We're not giving that to the blank space. We're giving it to you. So yes, please, to that. And how about taking that flower and agreeing with you're right, I'm not a blank space. Maybe right now it's a little blank. It's not going to be forever. So I'm not a blank space. So what's the flip of blank?
Colorful.
What else?
And messy.
Sorry, I missed the word.
Messy.
Oh, messy. Yes, please. Yay. Messy.
Yeah, I think like playful and yeah, even yeah, it's like 3D, it's like animated.
Excellent. You're just going to talk about wisdom, right? So these are like longings or evolutions. They're coming out of that primordial ooze of blankness, right? So just yes, please. Yes, please. And the forms will come, but these are wonderful essences. All sorts of forms could match this. So just welcoming out of the blank, coming colorful and messy and playful and 3D, animated. Yes, please. Good idea. And just inviting them to stretch on in, take up space. Emerging out of the blank space comes this color and this pow and this messy and playful, just popping right out of here. I'm just inviting it to stretch and take up more space within you and within your field, and maybe even as not just personal, but within the collective at large. Because we're in such a liminal time in the world, right? All sorts can emerge out of blankness. So yes, please. Anything that comes up, there might be some yeah buts, or maybe it's just all able to come. Just notice. What do you notice?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about like when you were drawing that squiggly line around that like containment and like containers and like yeah, that
okay,
again
you've given me a clue because you've said think a couple times, so that's cluing me in. We need to welcome mind here. And just welcoming mind, and mind always has a heart, right? Sometimes it's a coping mechanism or a way of keeping us safe and stuff in the world. And you've mentioned it over here in this fast, constricted, intellect is up in there. So mind's trying to figure this out. All this beautiful stuff that just popped out of blank space. And now it's thinking, right? So thank you for your love, mind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for figuring it out, trying to figure it out. Thank you for your love, because it's minds and doers are always in service of us. Although sometimes back to this imbalance thing, sometimes they can take up a little more space. And so also inviting the heart, and lower down, although I don't have space, will be belly. Just inviting heart and belly to come join mind. And see if they have anything that they want to contribute or add about what's just happened here with this wisdom of the essence that's coming out of blank. Mind's trying to figure it out. We'll go back to mind soon enough. But we're giving the mic to the belly and giving the mic to the heart. You'll just see if they want to take up that mic and how they communicate with you. It might not be through words. So anything you notice.
Yeah, I think
you caught it. Yeah. Just kiss the mind and thank it for its love. And then just go a little deeper down, below the neck, go right into the heart. And sometimes there's a block or something, right? So let me know if that's the case, but just go down to the I feel area there, somewhere in the body, as opposed to the think. Where's the feel? What's the feel say?
Yeah, I feel like present and yeah, and like a readiness.
Yay. So contrast that energy with the mind and its thing. It might be a little more frenetic, right? So, as you come down here, there's that slower and there's a more present, and it's, what do you know? It's readiness. Wow. Cool. Anything else you notice from that place? It's communicating beautifully.
I think a wanting for attention. There's like a wanting for attention.
As you said, think, I'm going to put that with the mind. Okay. So I think attention is up there in the mind, understandably. Nothing wrong with that. We'll come back to that. And just going back to that heart and that belly and the feels. Seeing if there's anything else that wants to get across about the feeling, and then we'll come with the, I think. Nothing wrong with attention.
I feel quite wide.
Ooh.
And open.
Yes, please. And just inviting that, yes, please, there you are. You're welcome here. You're welcome presence and being present. And you're welcome readiness and wide and open. Yes, please. Come on in, stretch on out, occupy. Ah. And then just agree with mind about its attention, because yes, this stuff gets attention. Yeah. I mean, literally it will, right? Because it draws people's attention when we're working. And probably as you become more present and ready and wide open with it, right? The result will be attention will come, attention, like focus on things. And then just also the being seen and the visible that can come with attention too. So yes, please. Yes, and all are allowed. And this nice mashup, right, of the attention with the presence and with the readiness and the wide and open, that they can actually come together in maybe a different way than they ever have. Yes, and the mind and the heart and the belly. Yes, please. And you're right there. So just seeing anything else that it's communicating with you, anything else you notice.
Also softness and
Ooh.
And tenderness too.
Beautiful. And just inviting, yes, please, to that. Oh, hello, softness and tenderness. That was the word tender, right? Beautiful. So another balance is fast and constricted and action and doing and intellect. Here's the other flip of it, right? The balancing polarity here of the softness and the tenderness. Delicious. And just inviting that, hey, softness and tenderness, you want to come in some more? Come on in, stretch on in, take up space here. There's room for you. Root down, rise up, just really inviting this like, hey, there's room for you here. Come on in. You can get in on this too. Back to the balance that you were mentioning. How's it respond? Does it take up the invitation, or is there any leeriness, or what's happening?
There's a little bit of like a leave me be feeling happening of
From the softness and tenderness, or from something else?
Yeah, I think from the softness and the tenderness, it's like a protection.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So just reassure it. It can keep its protection, and it may even prefer invisibility too, right? So just as you like, nice and practical, right? We don't want to strip you of those protections, because you don't want to get too soft or tender there. And it's like still having some protection, still having some barrier if need be, some boundary. We're not going to be silly here. We're keep our practicality. See how it responds to that. Is that all right by it? Protection still allowed. Especially in these worlds we've been talking about too, right? So in the work world, in the meeting world, in the busy, fast, frenetic world, you know, protection is welcome too. It's guiding me. So what's its counter? Here's that balance again. Yes, Anne, both are allowed.
Yeah, I'm just feeling the like circularness, the whole, I don't know, wholeness.
Ooh, yeah. That makes sense because it's been a little lopsided, and as you've been doing this, you've been balancing it, right? And so now it's that circle or that whole, that yin yang of it. That's how I read what you're saying. It feels like, so just yes, please, to wholeness. I'll put that in. Good idea. Circular, whole. Yes, please. That's exactly what would be wonderful and is happening. Wholeness. Yippee. Right? That left in brain story, your version. Even though I have those separated, because sometimes people resonate with one more than the other, they truly are whole. They go together. And you too. Yes, please. I'll just put balance in. I didn't have it earlier, but I think it goes with it too, right? This protection, practicality, balance. You're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater here. You're keeping all that good stuff and adding, balancing it out. Good idea. Yes, please. And just see, I think we might be there. It's not a head thing too. This will continue to, it's already happening and unfolding in you energetically. And that'll continue to play out here as it comes more into balance. But just see if there's anything else that wants to communicate to you as we come to this natural place to take a little rest with and acclimatize to. And sometimes there's a title that consciousness wants to put on the journey too. So just see if there's anything that's coming across about a title to place on this as it continues to unfold in you. Anything you notice, what's present? As the softness and tenderness and practicality and protection and wholeness all come online.
Yeah, I think darkness is coming in. There's like a night quality to.
And what's the feel of that? Is it restful or peaceful or scary?
Yeah.
Or what is it?
It's restful and it's peaceful.
Often the biggest rest is there, right? Where you just fall into that dark and just be enveloped by it, nice and quiet and restful and primordial. So just welcoming that. Hello, darkness. You are welcome here. Maybe even these trees start to the coziness of that quiet and peacefulness. I'm just resting in that, enveloped by it.
Yeah. There's just a turning, I think, like a dial or something.
Oh, yep.
It's
turning down the volume or turning down that frenetic or whatever into that peace, into that quiet. I don't have to know. My mind doesn't know, neither does yours. Just agree with the dial. That you're able to mitigate it, or you're able to tricate it, tritrate. Yeah. That there's some regulation that you can do, that you have control. You've got the dial. Yes, please. Let's draw a little dial here. So you can turn it up or turn it down as you need it. And just seeing again if there's anything else consciousness wants to get across. It's communicated with you beautifully here, and this is a natural place to leave the dial.
Oh my gosh, I just lost power. I just lost power. Oh, that was funny.
It's amazing it's still going. Yeah.
Did
it come right back? Yeah.
It came back, but that's only because I have backup systems.
Yeah. I got a generator.
Yeah, but now you can see I'm not on my monitor anymore. Now I'm just on my computer.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Well, and it didn't completely leave us with just something. So the dial and you just dialed it down. Boom, now you're in darkness. Well done.
Oh
you're a master. You're in darkness. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
and sometimes it's not the dial, it's just, take down the whole system.
Yeah. Yes,
crash.
Please.
Systems crash.
Right. That's part of that too, right? And then coming back online again. And yes, please, to emergency catches, right? Or generators or stuff to hold it until it comes back on. Recharge, reset. Yeah. Quite the journey. So just breathe into it in the now, and everything that just happened, it'll be fun for you to watch the recording too. We'll get the recording too. And it's just the field is so speaking with you with all these times that it pops up and winks at you, right? In these magnificent ways, the right brain ways, speaking the right brain language. Now, it might be the right brain that'll communicate this, or it might be the left, but I've left space up at the top for a title. Sometimes it can be nice to have one because you kind of get the essence and it mirrors back to you, and you'll have this to be able to refer back to if you care to. I'll do some more coloring and stuff with it too. But anything that feels natural, just kind of saying, hey, consciousness, what do I put on this? What do you want to reflect back to me? What's the title?
Mm. 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 Thing is coming to me.
I'm wondering about the dialing. I just keep feeling the dialing because it was
Yeah.
something about like dialing it down or dialing it, or
Mm-hmm.
I have the dial or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Maybe like the dial is in your hand.
Ooh, beautiful. That's awesome. Yes. The dial is in my hands. How about that?
Sure.
Good to know. Well, before you completely lose complete power, I'm going to stop the screen share. I'll
Great.
send that to you, and I'll, like I say,
Okay.
do a little bit of coloring and puttering with it.
That'd be
And
great.
so we come in and we met left brain and communicate and answer all those questions from that blog post and stuff and meet at that level. And then you were so brave to just jump in and do what's that? Self-inquiry? Boom. Which allows us to go into a different level, right? To go more into the kissing and appreciating the mind and the intellect and the doer, but also dropping down deeper, fully embodying down into the heart, into the belly, and then really the field, everything that was flashing there with those synchronicities is that larger mystery and field that we're in as well. Part of that unknown, right? As you hang there in the limbo, hey, there's that field. Not without intelligence, not without wisdom, in fact, frankly, sometimes way more than what our left brain and intellect has. So, and boy, it was showing you, no sooner do you talk about dial and then boom, you talk about darkness, and it literally happens. So it's like the universe is showing you like, yeah, this stuff is real.
Yeah.
It was dramatic to me. So hopefully it got across, right, to the left brain that can sometimes doubt intuition, right? It can doubt the communication that happens, and it's so obvious. And the left brain comes out with this bazooka and kind of shoots it down. No, that didn't mean anything. That was just this coincidence.
Right.
But it's nice when it does really obvious things like that, because it kind of cuts through some of that to go, hey, you're not alone. It's not just the mind and the intellect, right? There's also this greater intelligence and mystery here to help and assist as you go through this transition. And out of this blank space, I love that. I'm not a blank space, right? I'm colorful, I'm messy, playful, 3D, animated. And that gift from self to self, right? The little one in there, gifting up to the adult woman and saying, hey, we're not blank, we're this. And this is emerging. And we've got the dial's in our hands. And not getting rid of all that beautiful stuff you have with the action and the doing and the intellect, but adding, right? Balancing, adding in the softness and the tenderness and the balance in there. And that little kid energy too, that's innocence and purity and preciousness. And when you're surrounded by artists too, your own mark in the world, your own way of doing it, right? You have your canvas to play. Yeah, in your unique way. Yeah. And even as, checking in with practitioners in this field too, like, over to you, you got your dial. You'll do it your way. You have your path. And it's apparently going to be colorful and messy and playful in 3D. So I look forward to seeing it unfold if I get to hear updates.
Thank you for offering that exercise and practice. It's really, really new and exciting and
nice. Well, thank you for being game. I'll send you, when I send you the map, I also do these public drop-in songs. So if you're wanting some ongoing connection, often there's a lot of visual practitioners there. So you'll see me doing this, more inquiry, and sometimes constellation and other things from my shifted tools show up. So you're more than welcome to drop by and
thank you.
Keep me posted. All the best. I'm gonna hold on. I'm just gonna turn off the recording, and then we'll wrap on the other side of the recording. So we never know what will happen. So that was Hannah dropping by. That's what happened today. Yay! The dial is in your hands, everybody. Use it well. Okay, let me just